Shalom, everyone. It's so good to be back here in Baltimore. I just came back from California where it was cold and rainy while you guys had warmth. And then I got back here, got warm in California and cold here. So isn't that how it always is? But I always say, if my punishments have to come, let it be in the weather and car problems and things like that. Halavai, we should all be healthy and have the big things in life work out for us. The Parsha this week is Parshas Bo, and it talks about the last of the plagues. And my favorite plague, the plague of darkness. It's kind of strange to talk about plagues in today's world where we're going through one. But even so, the 10 plagues give me some joy. They give me a smile. It reminds me of childhood. It's one of the greatest stories of the Torah, the 10 plagues. Plus, it's cemented in our minds every Pesach through the ritual and the dipping of the finger. The plague of darkness is such an interesting plague. There's a lot to say about it. It lasted for 6 days, according to the Medrash. The first 3 days were a darkness that was impenetrable, and yet people could move around. The second 3 days, so day 4, 5, and 6, the darkness was thick. It had mamashut. It had like a pudding, and they're stuck. They can't move at all. Meanwhile, according to the Medrash, the Jews, actually, it's not the Medrash. The Jews had light. It's right in the Torah. Ulachol b'nei Yisrael haya or b'moshvo sam. There was light where the Jewish people dwelt. It's a very interesting kind of darkness. And Ramban says it wasn't a darkness that was an absence of light, but rather it was a darkness that was some form, some kind of fog, perhaps something psychological. Maybe it was in their minds. I always think about that this was a psychologically induced darkness. So it was really light and everything was light. But for the Egyptians, it was completely dark. I mean, how does the miracle work? Does it work with the physics of the world, or does it work with the human mind? It's always a good question. Anyways, but this darkness, if it was a physical thing, it was like a pudding. It was like a fog. So even if you lit a candle, you couldn't get rid of the darkness. It wasn't an absence of light. It was just something else. It's interesting, though. One more thing. I'm really waxing too long, as rabbis tend to do, but at least for a YouTube video where people's attention is like 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I got to hurry this up. I don't even know how long I'm going. I find it very fascinating that Hashem chose to make 2 levels of darkness. And it comes out of the Pasuk, because the Pasuk, the verse says there was darkness in all of the land of Egypt for 3 days. A man did not see their brother. A man could not rise from their seat for 3 days. So that's the first 3 days. The Medrash says, you could think the whole plague was just 3 days, but the Medrash makes it clear there was 3 days and then 3 days. And the fact that it mentioned 3 days twice shows there was 2 different kinds of darkness. The first was a darkness. Second one was a darkness that a person couldn't leave their seat, couldn't get up. Why? Why would there be 2 different kinds of darknesses? What's the value of that? Maybe a progression in scariness? But I believe the darkness is a symbol for what was in the heart of the Egyptians and the heart of anybody who oppresses another. Is that for 3 days there was this darkness that was based on what you could see, but it didn't really affect your whole body. And then the second 3 days, there was a darkness where you just were completely paralyzed. And I think those are progressing levels of the way we treat people, the way we act, is that sometimes we close our eyes to realities, and yet we still act in a positive way. And then there's times where we just are so paralyzed that not only is the darkness for the eyes, but it really blocks our whole character. I think that's a danger of what's going on with COVID right now, is that we can begin to get paralyzed, right? The second level of darkness. The first level of darkness is when you're afraid, when the world looks dark, it's scary, but you're going to keep on going. You have strength. You're going to keep on moving. The second and higher darkness is when you get completely frozen and paralyzed. We can't let that happen to us. We can't let COVID and what's going on in the world paralyze us from the action that we need to be taking. And I can't tell you the action you need to be taking. You know that in your heart. I know that in my heart. But let's not be paralyzed. Let's use this time as valuable lifetime and grow and better ourselves in every aspect of our lives, relationships, health, achievement. Do all those things at this time, no less than any other time. The idea that Americans are quitting their jobs and there's just kind of a sense of giving up. We cannot be paralyzed. So good Shabbos, everyone. Let's keep on fighting, keep on going forward, loving each other, being kind. The world has so much to offer. You have to have hope. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.